Buckle up, Colts Nation, because the rumor mill is spinning faster than ever. There's a major situation developing involving our former first-round quarterback that has everyone talking. Could we really be seeing the end of his time in Indianapolis before the season even kicks off? It is a complex situation filled with trade speculation, massive question marks, and high-stakes roster moves that could change our entire future. You definitely do not want to miss these details. Before we dive into the latest information, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts below. The trade landscape in the NFL is rarely a straightforward path, requiring a complex balance of financial logistics, player preferences, agent negotiations, and the overarching roster needs of every involved organization. For the Indianapolis Colts, this reality has become the defining challenge surrounding their former 4th overall draft pick, quarterback Anthony Richardson Sr. As the 2026 season approaches, the franchise finds itself in a situation where no deal has materialized, suggesting that Richardson remains on the active roster for now. However, the window for a potential trade has not yet slammed shut, and ESPN analyst Aaron Schatz has pointed to this as the final offseason move the Colts should prioritize. The situation is nuanced, as Richardson is no longer viewed as being part of the team's primary plans, especially with Riley Leonard emerging as the clear backup to starter Daniel Jones. Schatz notes that while Richardson has struggled to find his footing, he is still only 24 years old. This youth offers a unique, albeit risky, proposition for any interested suitor. A team acquiring him would have the opportunity to integrate him into their system for the remainder of the season, allowing for an internal evaluation before he hits free agency at the end of 2026. Despite a looming $4 million roster bonus due in July, the intrigue remains for organizations that possess a stable veteran starter and the available roster depth to house a developmental project. As the Colts navigate these waters, the organization's commitment to their current path is evident. Every decision made at this stage is for the shoe, reflecting the team's need to optimize its assets while managing the lingering complications of previous investments. Richardson's future remains the focal point for observers tracking the team. The ongoing saga regarding Anthony Richardson Sr. has been discussed extensively, yet it remains a critical narrative because Indianapolis is attempting to offload one of its most significant investments from the last 3 seasons. Richardson served as the starter for his first 2 years in the league, but he appeared in only 15 games during that span. He struggled to handle the heavy responsibilities the organization placed upon him, failing to meet the expectations that typically accompany a top 5 draft selection. Following a 2025 season where he spent time on the injured reserve due to an orbital bone fracture and served as the backup to Daniel Jones, the Colts made it clear he was no longer central to their long-term vision. This shift became definitive when the franchise committed to Daniel Jones with a substantial 2-year, $88 million contract. This move signaled a clear pivot in strategy, leaving Richardson on the periphery of the depth chart. Despite the documented struggles, persistent injury concerns, and the surrounding drama, Anthony Richardson Sr. is still regarded as one of the most physically gifted and athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. This physical profile makes him an intriguing prospect for teams that believe they can succeed where previous efforts fell short. However, potential trade partners are understandably wary of the risks involved. He has performed poorly when available, has been unable to maintain consistent health, and has looked largely unready to process complex NFL defensive schemes. The combination of high physical ceiling and low on-field production creates a difficult market value. While initial projections suggested he might be moved during the NFL draft, that period passed without action, highlighting the significant hurdles in finding a landing spot for a player with such a complicated recent history. Why does this matter right now for the team and the broader NFL landscape? The situation surrounding Anthony Richardson Sr. represents a pivotal moment for the Colts' roster management as they attempt to balance their financial commitments with the reality of their quarterback room. Currently, the team has moved forward with Daniel Jones as the primary signal caller, supported by Riley Leonard, effectively pushing Richardson to the outside looking in. For the Indianapolis front office, the priority is creating clarity and efficiency in a room that underwent massive changes throughout the 2026 offseason. If a team experiences an unforeseen issue with their own quarterback depth, Richardson could suddenly become a viable target. But until such a crisis occurs, his value remains speculative. The financial component is also a major factor. That upcoming $4 million roster bonus adds a layer of urgency and cost to any potential transaction. Any team that considers acquiring him must weigh the financial impact against the limited game tape available and his history of injuries. For the Colts, the goal is to resolve this uncertainty, as having a former 4th overall pick as a third-string option is not a typical roster construction. The team's focus is on building a competitive structure that can perform consistently, and clearing the path for their chosen starters is essential. The depth at the quarterback position is a delicate balance, and maintaining a player who is not in the active game plan creates an unnecessary complication for coaching staff operations. Every move made in this direction is a calculated step to ensure the team functions at its highest capacity. Watching how this develops throughout the summer is essential to understanding the team's final roster composition and their strategic direction for the upcoming year of professional football. Looking at the current environment, it is difficult to envision a trade happening before the start of the regular season unless the market environment shifts significantly. Most NFL teams have already finalized their primary quarterback rotations and are focused on integrating those players into their systems for training camp. For Anthony Richardson Sr. to find a new home, it would likely require a team to face an injury crisis or determine that their current developmental path is insufficient. If a squad finds itself in a bind, the possibility of a trade for Richardson would jump exponentially. This is especially true if a prospective team believes they have the coaching infrastructure to unlock the potential that Shane Steichen could not harness during his tenure with the player. The narrative of a fresh start is powerful in the NFL, and Richardson, at his age, remains a project that some organizations might be willing to take a big swing on. However, the red flags associated with his previous 3 seasons are impossible to ignore. He has not demonstrated the consistency required to be a reliable starter, and the lack of successful reps makes him a gamble for any general manager. The Colts are effectively looking for a partner willing to accept these risks in exchange for the chance to develop an elite athlete. The evaluation process for NFL scouts and executives is rigorous, and they are likely hesitant to invest assets into a player who has struggled so profoundly since entering the league. Despite these hurdles, the intrigue surrounding his physical attributes keeps his name relevant in trade discussions. He is a player who captures attention, but the chasm between his raw potential and his actual performance remains the primary barrier preventing a move. The progression of this offseason will eventually reveal the conclusion of the Anthony Richardson Sr. story in Indianapolis. While the silence on the trade front has been loud, the final weeks before the season kicks off often bring unexpected movement across the league. Whether the Colts ultimately find a suitor or decide to release him, the chapter on his time in the Circle City is effectively closed. The team is committed to a different path with Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard, and the energy in the building is focused on the immediate future of the roster. If a team eventually decides that the risk is worth the reward, Richardson may finally be granted the fresh start that many observers believe he needs to revive his career. On the other hand, if no trade develops, the Colts will have to navigate the reality of his presence or his departure through other means. The complexity of the modern NFL, where salary caps and roster spots are at a premium, makes this deal a microcosm of the challenges that general managers face when a high-profile draft pick does not pan out as expected. Fans and analysts continue to track every update, hoping to see how this final piece of the offseason puzzle fits together. Richardson remains a fascinating case study in the difference between physical talent and professional readiness. As the preseason progresses, the likelihood of a major change regarding his status will either diminish or crystallize based on the health and performance of quarterback rooms across the league. Whatever the outcome, the Colts remain focused on their core objective of fielding a winning team, ensuring that every strategic decision serves their broader goals for the season ahead, all while continuing their journey in the highly competitive professional football landscape.